Number 20. Hey look, a spider! Enemy. Denis Villeneuve is nothing if not a stylist. As a result, his films often end up being just as gorgeous to look at as they are to watch from a narrative perspective. However, this doesn't make up for the fact that the ending to his 2013 film Enemy is just plain weird.
Alan?
On the one hand, we sort of understand Villeneuve's desire for symbolism here, as tarantulas do appear in sequences throughout the film. However, we'd be lying if we said that we expected to see this giant version of the arachnid during Enemy's final scene. What's even more confusing is the film's lead, Jake Gyllenhaal, and his nonplussed reaction to the whole situation. Maybe he was the only one who knew the whole time? Number 19. Possession. Paranormal Activity. The found footage style of horror filmmaking was perhaps reaching its creative apex around the time Paranormal Activity hit screens.
I think we're gonna have a very interesting time capturing whatever paranormal phenomena is occurring or is not occurring.
That said, audiences still probably weren't ready for the downer ending that writer-director Oren Peli had in store. The nighttime footage of the house was probably enough to keep horror fans spooked at the time, but Paranormal Activity had an ace up its sleeve when it came to delivering a climax. A ghostly possession and violent murder are all caught on camera, effectively bringing an end to the tale of Mika and Katie. We're not sure what we expected when we watched Paranormal Activity theatrically for the first time, but this definitely wasn't it. Number 18. Torture and Death. Audition. The name Takashi Miike is one that's well-traveled within circles of those who follow transgressive cinema. Audition is perhaps one of Miike's best-known projects, as well as one of his best.
あなたはもう動けない。体は死ぬけど、神経だけは起こしておいてあげます。
The film plays around with audience expectations, detailing how a widower is staging fake audition scenarios to interview prospective new wives. As a result, Audition doesn't really become a horror film until its final act, where the widower is attacked by his disturbed audition subject, Asami. There's a lot to unpack here, from Asami's own fragile mental state to the disingenuousness and even abusive behavior of the widower, Shigeharu. The image of Asami as she falls down a flight of stairs to her death is one that will haunt us forever. Number 17. A dimension of sight, sound, and WTF. Insidious. The idea of demonic possession within the world of horror movies is nothing new. But here's a pitch for you. Could hell actually arrive from another dimension? This is essentially what takes place in the 2010 horror film Insidious, directed by Saw co-creator James Wan.
A place without time as we know it is a dark realm filled with the tortured souls of the dead. A place not meant for the living.
A strange, red-faced, demonic figure utilizes a young boy as a conduit, a means to infect our world from the other side. The climax of Insidious then ramps up this idea, developing a dimension known as the Further, where this lipstick-faced demon resides. This vision of a demonic hellscape is just the tip of the iceberg, or is that flameberg, because Insidious reserves one last jump scare for us at the very end. Yikes. Number 16. The Scream. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a franchise with a remarkable amount of legs, being remade with a somewhat consistent stream of quality. Body Snatchers 78 is probably the best of the bunch, however, a film steeped in 1970s paranoia that plays up this notion for all it's worth.
Well, I can handle the health department, I think, but if panic breaks out, then we're going to need the police and the guard, and that means the mayor and... Well, the mayor's a patient of yours, isn't he?
This idea of not being able to trust anyone follows Invasion of the Body Snatchers right to its terrifying final shot as well. Veronica Cartwright's Nancy thinks she's finally reunited with Matthew, played by Donald Sutherland. She attempts to make contact, while also avoiding making herself known to the duplicates that surround her. She finds out only too late that Matthew has been assimilated, as he points at her and sounds a chilling, screaming alert. Number 15. Mater Suspiriorum. Suspiria. Both versions of Suspiria possess uniquely disturbing end sequences all their own. However, you just cannot beat the world of 1970s and 80s Italian cinema when it comes to going all the way. She may initially be known as Elena Marcos while establishing a respected dance academy in Germany, but Marcos also doubles as a terrible witch with the title Mater Suspiriorum.
Aveva scoperto che la Tamma Academy fu fondata nell'895, pare da una certa Elena Marcos. Questa Elena Marcos era una immigrata greca che molti sostenevano fosse una strega.
Marcos also makes her initial appearance during the ending of Suspiria by reanimating a corpse to do her bidding. But the Dark Mother's invisible figure is soon uncovered by new student Susie Banyan. However, Banyan is soon able to stab the invisible Mater Suspiriorum with a shard of crystal plumage, effectively ending Marcos's reign of terror. Number 14. Just kidding, The Descent. One of the great things about horror is that when you go into a scary movie, you know it could have either a happy ending or a horrible ending. After giving us plenty of creature feature action, The Descent plays with this expectation. Having left Juno to die, Sarah falls further down the cave before seeing a miraculous ray of light. Following it, she escapes the cave with an intake of air. Triumphant music swells as the desperate heroine locates her car and drives away, before pulling over to break down. But with a single jump scare, all hope is dashed, as it's revealed Sarah is actually still trapped in the cave, unlikely to survive. Number 13. Sacrifice, The Wicker Man. The 1970s was a decade unafraid to give cinemagoers challenging and unapologetically depressing finales. The Wicker Man was a true shock, however, an ending probably no one saw coming back in 1973. Police Sergeant Howie is sent to the remote area of Summerisle in search of a missing girl named Rowan Morrison.
You know her. Her name is Rowan Morrison. The photo was in this letter posted here on Summerisle.
The devoutly religious Howie is appalled at the pagan rituals of Summerisle, but is determined to find the girl. He realizes too late that his arrival at the island was intentional, and that an intense ritual is about to occur, with him as the guest of honor. Howie is burned alive as a sacrifice within a giant wicker man, in the hopes that failed Summerisle crops will return fruitful the following year. Number 12. The Basement, The Blair Witch Project.
Josh, where are you? Tell me where you are!
When Josh goes missing, Mike and Heather begin to descend into hysteria. All signs point to the Blair Witch being very real and tormenting the filmmakers. Despite this, Heather and Mike decide to follow Josh's screams to a dilapidated house. The ghastly final moments of the film indicate they've walked directly into the clutches of something.
Josh? Josh, is that you down there? Josh?
Mike drops his camera in the basement, and Heather, letting out some shudder-inducing screams, locates him facing a corner. She drops the camera and cut to black. Although this is a throwback to an earlier story in the movie about children being murdered after being forced in the corner, is that really what happened? Number 11. The Coven, The Witch.
Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?
After an encounter with the witch in the barn, Thomason awakens with bloodied hands, the twins nowhere to be found, and the farm in disarray. The strange goat Black Phillip gores William with his horn, causing Catherine to believe that Thomason is the witch. They struggle, with Thomason ultimately forced to kill her own mother. With no other options, Thomason conjures Black Phillip to speak to her. A figure emerges, and she agrees to sign a contract in exchange for living, quote, deliciously. Thomason proceeds to a bonfire where naked witches chant incantations, and she rises into the air, laughing. It's a haunting movie with an equally haunting ending that sticks with you. Number 10. Babadook in the Basement, The Babadook. Sometimes endings don't make sense at first, but become strokes of genius upon revisiting them. Such is the ending to The Babadook. After the titular villain possesses Amelia, Sam is finally able to bring her back by proving how much he loves her. It attempts to weaken her again by appealing to her despair at the loss of her husband, but she overcomes it and forces the creature into the basement. Later, Amelia and Sam have repaired their relationship, and she's seen feeding the tamed Babadook in the basement. At first glance, the ending is strange, but upon learning that the Babadook is a representation of grief, it makes this frightening film much more meaningful. Number 9. What have you done to its eyes? Rosemary's Baby. It's one of the most iconic final scenes in horror movie history. The ending to 1968's Rosemary's Baby could have gone the expected route and actually showed us the literal spawn of Satan. However, the decision to intentionally obscure Rosemary's demonic baby boy allows our minds to wander to some seriously dark places.
What have you done to it? What have you done to its eyes?
He has his father's eyes.
The chorus of Hail Satan echoes through our ears. Meanwhile, Rosemary's pained screams of horror, the harrowing musical score, and her reaction to the child's demonic eyes never fail to send shivers down our spines. It's the sort of less is more attitude that makes Rosemary's Baby an all-time horror classic.
What have you done to him, you maniac?
Satan is his father, not Guy. He came up from hell and begat a son of mortal woman.
Number 8. April Fool's Day. Every holiday needs a horror film centered around it, and this one has the perfect twist for its particular holiday. After discovering that Muffy has actually been her evil twin sister Buffy the entire weekend, they flee from her.
Buffy, no! I love you, Kid!
Kit pleads for her life before running into the living room and discovering that all her friends that she thought were dead were still very much alive. All prior events in the film had been staged in an elaborate rehearsal for a whodunit getaway that Muffy planned on opening. It is a cruel prank, but Nan gets her back for it by pretending to slit her throat in the final scene.
April Fool.
Number 7. Angela is Peter. Sleepaway Camp.
Let's go swimming.
Now? What about our clothes?
We spend the majority of the film sympathizing with Angela, who is ruthlessly picked on due to her introverted nature. When the grisly deaths start to pile up, Ricky is suspected as the killer for his protective nature over her. One chaotic night brings about several deaths, and Angela and Paul decide to go skinny dipping naturally. When Ronnie and Susie finally locate them, we're given one of the most shocking twists in the entire slasher genre. Angela, who has decapitated Paul, was actually born Peter, but raised as a girl by her eccentric aunt.
Yes, I've always dreamed of a little girl just like you.
Try as you might, you're not going to forget that horrific noise she makes as the film comes to a close. Number 6. The Dwarf. Don't Look Now. We mentioned earlier how Rosemary's Baby utilized a less is more approach to deliver the horrific goods with its final sequence. 1973's Don't Look Now does that too, but also delivers a gut-punch swerve at the end that no one will see coming. The Baxters are two grieving parents who are racked with guilt over the loss of their daughter Christine.
She's wearing a shiny little Mac. Christine. Oh, but she's laughing, she's happy as can be.
The husband and wife's distracted lovemaking allowed for their daughter to drown while unattended, and their marriage has been strained as a result. They're determined to contact Christine via spiritual mediums, but are warned of impending danger. The finale sees John Baxter murdered by a dwarven serial killer that he mistakes for Christine. It's the sort of shock that honestly comes out of nowhere.
Wait.
Number 5. The Party. Mother. When a group of Hymns fans intrude on their house, Mother begins to get annoyed. That annoyance becomes rage and fear as their behavior becomes more bizarre. Mother and Hym are able to escape to Hym's office where she gives birth. Hym takes the baby to his followers who cannibalize the child. As revenge, Mother blows up the house, with herself and Hym inside, killing everyone but them. Hym removes the heart from Mother's burnt body, finds a crystal inside, and places it on a pedestal, creating a new house and a new mother. It was a controversial ending, and its meaning is up for debate. Regardless, we all had the same 3-word reaction.
Baby?
Number 4, The 4th of July, The Shining. Film critics all around the world have put on their collective thinking caps and tried to summarize the themes running through the finale of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in.
It's the sort of film adaptation that strays so far from the book that it feels more Kubrickian than anything resembling Stephen King's original novel. The strangeness and otherworldly feelings that permeate The Shining don't stop at the end either, as the audience is left with more questions than answers. We see Jack Nicholson's Jack Torrance within a black and white photo, dated July 4th, 1921. We also know that Torrance was somehow possessed by the evil of the Overlook Hotel. But what of the Jack in the picture? Your guess is as good as ours.
But you are the caretaker. You've always been the caretaker.
Number 3, Rise of the Ancient Ones, The Cabin in the Woods.
Let's get this party started.
You know the drill. A bunch of teenagers go to a cabin in the woods, zombies or whatever attack, yada yada. Well, this movie shook up that formula a bit with its gonzo final act. Survivors Dana and Marty descend into the underground facility, which has been controlling the events up to that point. In one of the most insane horror scenes of the decade, they release a plethora of monsters into the facility, killing everyone. Eventually, the director confronts them and explains that these violent deaths are a ritual to satisfy the Ancient Ones. Dana and Marty allow the ritual to fail, and the evil gods are not happy about it. Number 2, that's unfortunate, The Mist. The most effective horror movies find horror through emotion. Though David, Dan, Amanda, Billy, and Irene are able to escape the supermarket, they are thrust into the mist, full of horrific, deadly creatures that have destroyed nearly everything. Believing there's no hope, they decide to allow David to kill them peacefully, so they don't have to suffer through the horrible deaths their comrades have. David kills his friends, and out of bullets, goes into the mist to die. But just then, the army arrives, rescuing survivors. David then realizes he needlessly killed his colleagues, including his own son. We weren't expecting a horrific ending, but this is something else entirely. Number 1, Hail Payman, Hereditary.
If we destroy this book, it will take me too.
Hereditary masterfully rewards patience by slowly building towards its horrifying finale. Annie thinks that by burning Charlie's sketchbook, she'll expel the demon in her home. Instead, it causes her husband to combust, allowing the demon Payman to possess her. She chases her son Peter into the attic, where we see the terrifying shot of Annie sawing her own head off. Peter jumps out the window before awakening, clicking his tongue and following his mother's headless corpse into the treehouse. Joan informs him that he is now the human host for Payman, who previously lived in Charlie. The scene bleeds horror, from Annie banging her head on the ceiling to a ritual revolving around decapitation.
Hail Payman! Hail Payman! Hail Payman!
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.